Okay, we've already created a video showing about how you could plan the character of Napoleon, but we thought we'd also juxtapose that with an opposite character. We focused on the pigs are in charge, the pigs are in control and forcing things to happen. What about the weaker animals? What about the victims of suffering in there? So what we thought is we would write a CALSC paragraph as an example for you all about Boxer, okay? Imagining it was with this question: how is Boxer presented by Orwell as a weak character? Now, of course, you can argue always with these because there were moments when Boxer is strong, physically strong as opposed to mentally weak. You've got the evidence that he was more like 3 horses than 1 early on in the story. The irony being that they replace him with several horses who are much less smart and not his equal later on. He has tremendous muscle. So there are moments when you could write a paragraph arguing, well, actually, if you look at this in terms of physical strength, he isn't a weak character. So you don't be afraid to challenge the question where appropriate, okay? But there are plenty of ways in which he's seen as a victim of suffering. We could have looked at Comrade Napoleon is always right, the irony being that the Napoleon who he always defends to the hilt is the one who sends him to his death at the end. He does have that moment when he challenges Squealer about Snowball's role and says, I do not believe that, okay? But ultimately, he dies when Boxer was never seen again, okay? We get 2 pages later, from somewhere or other, it was rumoured that the pigs had acquired the money to purchase another crate of whiskey, okay? So Comrade Napoleon has traded his best worker, the one who represents the Russian proletariat, for a crate of whiskey. You've also got his reminders about the pigs gave him pink medicine, which is almost like while he's sick, which is almost there to tranquilise him. Okay, lots of quotations you could take. The Boxer, and the fact that he can't read very well, and that later on there are animals who could not get beyond the letter B, as if Boxer is actually the best of the bad lot. So the animals later on are so brainwashed and so controlled that the later horses are even weaker on the reading than he is. Okay, but we're going to focus for our CALSC example in a moment. We're going to show you, model a 10-minute paragraph for you with said stopwatch. Okay, for going for I will work harder. It's a quote that a lot of people will advise. It's interchangeable with I must work harder, and we'll look at what we could do with either the verbs must or will in a few moments. But the point is, a lot of people will write about it if they were to write about Boxer or to write about the animals suffering in general. And what we want to model for you is how to write well about it using CALSC so that you don't just all say exactly the same things with this, okay? So we're going to hit the button, start the timer, and at this point, okay, we are using the topic sentence, okay, that needs to draw in the keywords from this, okay? So let's go for, we're in the middle, imagine that we're in the middle of writing this. So we've had a firstly paragraph, we've had a moreover paragraph, okay? Furthermore, Orwell presents, I'm going to change the wording of the question because you can do it slightly. Presents Boxer's weakness in terms of, and I'm going to put it in inverted commas because we know he's actually physically strong, in terms of how he is exploited by the ruthless regime of the pigs. We could be showing off and throwing in all kinds of things about the pigs or the Bolshevik party if we're throwing in some Russian context. But already we've emphasised that Boxer is exploited. And now we need to prove that. This is introducing our quotation that we now need to embed. Okay? We say when it happens, and actually this is a quote that repeats several times. So throughout the novel, Boxer uses the catchphrase, and of course we could have said that Orwell puts the catchphrase into his mouth, but later on we'll say this, or don't want to write about Boxer just as if he is a real horse. But Boxer uses the catchphrase, I will work harder. I need to say why he does that, so you could say to emphasise his commitment or to reinforce his loyalty and commitment to animalism. Okay, we haven't used CALSC yet. We've hinted at sort of, could say to the cause of animalism. But already we have a quotation embedded and we have a key word that has been addressed. So we know we're writing relevant things. So now let's say what this shows about the character. Okay, you could, so to the next idea, so you're looking at the language and you're looking at the character. This suggests, we talked about his loyalty and commitment, so I don't want to repeat that. Suggests that he is determined to find solutions to problems on the farm, on animal farm as it now is. Again, you can you might say animal/manor farm, just to prove that you're aware of the change, just like the change in the Soviet Union from Russia. Farms on animal/manor farm, okay, by dedicating himself to extreme hardship. You can give examples of that. The idea that such as getting out of bed an hour earlier. I think it goes up later on, sort of. Well, the pigs are getting up an hour later. He's getting up an hour earlier. I think that's 45 minutes or so. But getting out of bed an hour earlier than all the other. And again, you can throw in your knowledge, the other equal animals, because Boxer is making a choice with a quality that is actually suggesting he's working too hard. Some people would say this is like him as a victim of the working classes, one of the problems of the working classes and the proletariat in Russia, which we'll use that word in a moment, okay, is the idea that they could be exploited because they were gullible and they went along blindly and loyally with everything that Stalin's regime brought in. So then all the other equal animals. Okay, so we've got that's a character comment. Let's zoom in on the language at this point in time, because CALSC can be in whichever order it works for us. Okay, so let's emphasize that Orwell does this. Orwell uses, or Orwell, I'm going to go Orwell employs the modal verb. Modal verbs come before a main verb, like must, may, could, should, and would. So the modal verbs, apostrophe that I didn't want there. The modal verbs will and sometimes must, because we're aware that sometimes it's like will work hard, sometimes must work harder. You could even say they were interchangeable if you really wanted to be fancy. And again, I'm going over my work and thinking, how can I make this a better answer than it already is? Employs the interchangeable modal verbs will and must to demonstrate how there is no alternative or is no choice for Boxer, or seemingly no choice for Boxer, okay, but to wear himself out, to exhaust himself. If the windmill, remember Boxer built the windmills almost single-handedly, or dragged the stones, the two windmills, two of the 5-year plans that they're meant to represent in Stalin's Russia. But to wear himself out if the windmills are to be successfully completed. What I'm trying to show is that you are bringing in so much more than just the quote. You are bringing in your knowledge of the wider text here, and that's a very, very important thing. We've got about 5 minutes of the 10 left already. Okay, we've got character and language dealt with successfully. It would seem appropriate we'll bring in the context, okay? In Stalin's Soviet Union, I was going to call it Russia, but technically it's the change. In Stalin's Soviet Union, okay, Boxer could symbolize the exploitation of the ordinary workers, the proletariat. It doesn't hurt to throw in sort of those vocabulary terms that suggest sort of your wider knowledge. The proletariat, okay, who blindly followed the regime until it was too late. Okay, I keep using that word regime to emphasize a dictatorship. The dictatorship until it was too late to challenge the worst horrors of bringing the Great Purge or the Great Terror that Stalin committed during the 1930s. Of course, Boxer is the first one to be attacked by the dogs, but he's too strong for them. It's the 4 pigs are the ones that had their throats torn out by the dogs, but that's because they could not take out Boxer. But from that point, Boxer's days are numbered. The worst horrors of the Great Terror in the 1930s. Okay? When Boxer dies, okay, you could even argue that his exhaustion and death, even before the pigs send him off to the knacker's yard, could represent, because we've always said about how it symbolises, okay, the deaths of 20 million people over 30 years in Stalin's Russia. I know we encourage people to write about how the dogs tearing their throats out and the pile of corpses represent this as well. But Boxer's death, Boxer is meant to represent thousands, millions of people. Okay, it could represent the deaths of 20 million, I'll call them Soviet citizens during the 30 years of Stalin's dictatorship. So we're now showing off with context. We've already dealt with language and character. So really it's just the big idea. And we talked earlier about the idea of the working classes, sort of, okay? So very much that the working classes, it could be argued that Orwell is making the point, the idea, because this is our allegorical idea, the idea that too many of the working classes, we have a minute and a half left, working classes unquestioningly followed Stalin's political extremism to their own bitter end. Okay? And very much it's just really the structure. I think we said throughout the novel, so we've already touched upon structure. Okay? But I think just that very much that idea that throughout the novel this changes. So we'd already touched upon structure slightly, but choosing to use this phrase early on and repeat it throughout, thank you very much, unseen hand, throughout emphasizes how events in Russia were built, Russia/the Soviet Union, were built upon the hard work and tragic consequences for ordinary people. And that is effectively, despite talking it through, a 10-minute paragraph as the timer is announcing to us. Hopefully that models the idea of a Boxer-based CALSC. We know we've got character, we know we've got language, we know we've got context, we've got allegory, and we've got a structural point threaded through. This is what we're aiming for 4 times in the process of a successful Animal Farm essay. Thank you.